Hey guys, so I just decided to do a little crop tour here today. We got a few showers come through yesterday. This area got about an inch or so, inch and a half of rain. You can see there are some puddles on the headlands and stuff, so it's fairly saturated already. I just seeded this field of canola 2 days ago and managed to dig this little guy out, if it'll focus. Now, I know it's tough to see, but I'm holding a blue seed, and that little kind of speck, that white speck you can see, you can just see a little bit of the root. So this seed in 2 days has already popped. So we're just gonna go ahead and put that guy back in there. Cover him up. So that's really good to see. 2 days is fast for emergence. We are late seeding this year, of course. So we do have a much warmer soil than we're used to working with when we're seeding canola. So if it's already popped after day 2 with this heat and this moisture, these plants should jump. I would expect to see them out of the ground in another like 2 to 3 days. So that'll be really promising. Hopefully have some canola up before June, which I really didn't think we were going to have, but we got lucky with this. We only have about 500 or 600 acres here that got this good rain. Everything else seemed to miss it. That's kind of what I'm driving around to find out, how much rain there was and if we actually got enough moisture to germinate some of the seeds that were sitting in dry dirt. But I'll continue the crop tour and show you everything, how it's coming along. All right, guys, so we just got to the next field here. We're about like 6 miles from the last video where we had that like inch and a half of rain. As you can see, it's well, it's actually dry on top here. There really wasn't much rain at all here. So yeah, that storm was super spotty. Some places got no rain whatsoever. Some places got a ton of rain. I'm hearing some places further east of here, like 20 miles or so, got 6 to 7 inches. So roads are washed out. There's flooding everywhere. It was wild. I got rained out in the cedar yesterday. And so Dad and I went for a cruise just to take a look at crops and how they were doing. And I got looking at the radar, and I kept telling them, like, there's one cloud that had red in it, and that red spot, the cloud was moving and then it just stopped dead in one spot, and that cloud built up for about 2 hours. And so the poor people underneath that cloud, that red cloud that sat there for almost 2 hours, got almost 7 inches of rain in 2 hours. So there's some really obviously ugly crops going to be out there. I know they were just starting to get seeded and stuff too, so that really is not what you want to see. I will take this little rain over that 7 inches. I'll take no rain over that 7-inch rain, because that's just going to do a whole lot of damage. That's going to wreck a lot of stuff. Going to be a lot of reseeding needed. So, but I finally, now that I've got a break for a day from the cedar, hopefully the wind isn't too bad here and you can hear me all right. But I finally got a bit of a break from the cedar, so we're just coming out and checking crops. So this is a field of wheat. Obviously you can see we got some weeds here we got to spray out soon. But this is some wheat that was seeded just over a week ago now. So it's popping up in rows. We still have a few kind of patchy spots here, but they are coming. We have some little ones poking through yet. There's another little guy right there, if you can see him. Little guy coming through. That's kind of a small plant, so a little bit stagey. This guy just kind of poked through. So it is coming. It was fairly dry in here though. This was no. We put anhydrous on in front of this field. So we did dry out the ground a fair bit before we seeded it, but it does look like you can see some of these yellow plants just as they're coming through. So these are new growth just popping up. You can see the yellow ones kind of just come through probably overnight. And there's a bunch more coming here. So there is more coming. We definitely could have used more rain. I'm sure there are still a few plants sitting in dry dirt, but for the most part, we're at a reasonable emergence given conditions that we had. So this is hard red spring wheat. This is basically the only wheat we grow. There's also winter wheat here. But for the most part, hard red spring is the only wheat. There are a bunch of different kinds. There's soft white and yeah, a whole bunch of kinds. I won't even get into it. I don't actually know the classes even all that well. But this is hard red spring wheat. So you can see here, these are all just main stems that are poking through. Now eventually, as these plants get bigger, they'll start to send out tillers. And tillers are like branches on a tree, essentially. So you'll have a main stem, and then you'll have tillers that come off of said stem. So you can have, 8 or 9 tillers, and all those tillers will be a wheat head. So you always have the main stem, and then you also want to get some good tillering action. And obviously the plant, depending on moisture conditions, when it's early on, it will decide whether and how many tillers to send up based on sunlight, nutrients available, water available, that kind of stuff, and it will shut down tillers as well. The main plant is what it's trying to keep alive all the time. But if conditions are really good, obviously, in order for that plant to survive, its adaptation is to set seed. And so the more tillers it can send up, the more seed it can set, the better chance that plant has of surviving. Or so in its mind, that's what it's thinking. But for us, that means more yield. So we want to encourage tillering. That's why we want to give it a good fertilizer plan. So we did put some anhydrous ammonia down, which is nitrogen, in front of this crop. Spring applied is generally better than fall applied. And simply because there's not as much leaching, so nitrogen is water soluble and can move down into the soil profile. So if you do it in the fall time, it's quite possible, usually with spring snow melt and whatnot, that a lot of your nitrogen can be lost through leaching down into the soil out past the root zone. So normally we do apply it just to make our spring a lot easier, but last year with that crazy fall we had, crazy winter, we didn't get any nutrients down, no fertilizer whatsoever. So we're doing it all in the spring, and some of it's been dry spread and some of it's been anhydrous, and we're going to kind of see what was the best method. But there are some downsides to it, is that it does dry out the ground a lot. So you can see we've got some plants here and we got a patch with nothing and then some plants. So we are still running into some dry spots. It was a little wet here. This is obviously right at an approach. So this is where all the equipment comes in and out of. It's really hard, really compacted. Usually we have some germination issues here, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with it. It is actually coming up better than I was expecting it would. And we can see some rows out here now. They don't show up too well on camera, but they are there. They're babies, they're tiny. They'll definitely jump though. We've got some good heat, they're coming. We definitely could have used a good rain. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, but again, I'll take the, oh, there's a little bit of water there. I'll take the no rain or very little rain over that 7-inch rain all day, any day. So that at least is good news. And yeah, I'm gonna kind of tour around here, check out a bunch of the crops that I haven't seen because I've been stuck in a seeder for a week and a half. So we're on to the next field. Okay guys, I'm back. We're checking a field of canola here over by my grandpa's. That's actually his yard site, just right there. So this was seeded, I think 4 or 5 days ago. This is a crop of canola, and we've got some little guys coming through already, which is really good actually. That's fast on emergence. Again, I guess the late start, we had really good heat once we did get going, so these crops are jumping quick, which is awesome to see, especially with canola. Canola has a seed treatment on it. It has an insecticide for flea beetles. I don't see any yet, but I'm sure they'll show up. They were bad last year, which means they likely have lots coming again this year. We have some good emergence. So anyways, yes, we have that seed treatment is only viable for about 3 weeks though. It'll only protect the plants for that long. So if you plant it and it sits in the ground for 2 weeks before it comes up, you now only have a week worth of protection before the flea beetles will absolutely decimate these things. So it's good to see them come up out of the ground early. Hopefully we won't have to spray for flea beetles so much. We did some crops 2 times last year. I heard of some people spraying 3 times and then also having to reseed because they were just in absolutely tremendous numbers. So that is obviously something we're hoping not to have happen again. So yeah, this is actually really good emergence. We're having a pretty good stand here. We want about 5 to 7 plants per square foot is the general idea as far as plant stands go. And of course, this is not a final plant stand. It's good to see. I mean, we have 5 plants right here. So obviously that's well within the square foot, which is good, but flea beetles may reduce these numbers big time. And I'm already seeing that guy's lost a leaf somehow. Now these are the cotyledon stages. These are all little cotyledons. So cotyledons are the very first, well, I wouldn't even call them leaves. This is kind of right out of the seed, comes up, your cotyledons open up, and then from here we'll have true leaves come out. And canola is it's vulnerable to flea beetles up until the 4-leaf stage. So that is the big race right now. These guys are up. They have a growing point above the ground like soybeans, except they do not tolerate frost at all like soybeans do. Soybeans are a much thicker plant, better vigor. They're a little better insulated than these things. These things are tiny, tiny, tiny. Let me see if I can dig one up here to just kind of show you just how small these plants are. Come on. Break that apart a little bit. So there we are. That's the canola plant. So it is, oh, it flipped over. So that's it. It is just a tiny little wee stem, and you see the white part on the stem, there's purple up at the top. So that's what is above the ground, and the white part, so right where all that dirt is where the seed was. Looks like it fell off when I pulled it out. And then the white part of the plant is actually the hypocotyl, and that gives you an idea of what the seed depth is. So while it was growing underground, it'll stay white, and as soon as it breaks ground, it turns into that purple. So that's, I haven't measured it, but I would say that's probably 3/4 of an inch that plant came from down in the ground, which is actually, that's a great depth. I have dug up a couple others, and they're already at, most of them were down at about an inch, which again is pushing it, but just given we had so much heat, I figured we'd be okay. I wanted to go down into moisture because I didn't know if we'd get rain. Grandpa just stopped by and said they got about a ½ inch here, which is good enough, should be good enough to get all the seeds that were sitting in dry dirt going. It won't be enough to get guys like this going, these seeds on the surface. These bounced out of the seed row at seeding. You can see another one over here. So these will grow if you get enough rain. They generally, if you get a nice long slow soaking rain, these will grow. Just because it's underwater for long enough, or has water long enough, that it's actually able to sprout and send a root down into the soil, and once the root's into the soil, then it's good to go. But I don't think a ½ inch is enough to do it. It didn't rain for very long last night. We kind of got a shot of it, and then it was done. So the surface ones I don't think will come up, but anything underneath the ground should hold moisture long enough that they can at least germinate, and there is good moisture underneath this. So we are almost off to the races here. I think as long as we definitely need a few more plants to come through, but it's good to see them coming up already this short. Hey guys, just the last stop of the day. I'm back at the main farm here, and I wanted to show you this. I'm going to make it quick because it's really windy out, so that I apologize for, but there are rows here, and what these are lupins. See them? Those are actually the first true leaves starting to come out on the lupin plants. So these are really cool. I was telling you about these earlier. This is something I've never grown before. I've never seen grow before. Never been grown in this area. Never successfully been grown in Manitoba that I know of. I had done a lot of research on these things. I pulled this guy out of the ground. I can't get over the size of the stem on these. These are monsters. But these are really cool. They're going to be kind of a little bit of an experiment for me, if you will. And I'm hoping that these can actually put this guy back in the ground. We'll plant him again. Yeah, I'm hoping that these are going to be a viable crop here in Manitoba. They have a lot of similarities with soybeans, as you can see. You can see some of the ones pushing out of the ground. For those of you in the States or anybody familiar with soybeans, their cotyledons look very similar to soys as they push through. So they're great big stems on them. And you see they were seeded cold, so you can see they do have some stress on them. But for the most part, they're coming up good. There's still some that were a little bit too shallow, didn't have a lot of moisture in the ground, so there are still some to germinate. Hopefully this little 2/10 rain we got was enough moisture to get them going, but you can just start to see some rows in them. So these are a really, really long season plant. That's why there hasn't been many of them around yet. There's some, as you can see, kind of poking through. They're kind of, the knuckle curls and then the cotyledons pop up first, just like soybeans do. So these haven't really been grown. There are a really long season plant. They are huge in Australia, and of course they have a much longer growing season than we do here. But this is a UK variety, and they have a much closer season to us, a much more similar season. So hoping that this variety will actually produce here. And this, I want to keep you guys up to date on this, because this is going to be really cool. You're learning with me. I mean, this is totally new. There's quite a few people interested in this little project here. That's because no one's really ever seen it before. So I think there's a lot of curious people as to whether this will be viable or not. Agronomically speaking, they have a lot of really good traits that would work really well in this area. There's some more pushing through. to. And yeah, agronomically, I think they have a lot of benefits here, so I would like to, I hope they succeed. I would like to have this as a cropping option for producers here in the area. Something else that'll tolerate moisture really well, aside from just trying to grow soybeans on soybeans on soybeans all the time when it gets wet. So hopefully this pans out, and hopefully we get enough of a market for it that these things will actually become a bit more of a staple crop here. So I will definitely be keeping you up to date on this. This is really what gets me excited about farming. I love trying new things and doing stuff different, and this definitely fits that description. So yeah, this is all really cool. So there is a true leaf coming on this guy. This is a kind of a broadleaf lupin. You have narrow leaf lupin, and then you have kind of the broadleaf lupin. This is a long season, the broadleaf lupin. And last year I grew the narrow leaf lupin. It wasn't very well suited to our area. They did not do well, and I'm hoping I have much better luck with these guys. So stay tuned, and I'll try to give you at least week-to-week updates. And yeah, we'll see how these guys do from spring to harvest.